Hi there, this is Marianne from New Journeys Counselling. Now you may have watched some of my previous videos, and I did do a video recently called How to Manage Depression. So what I'm just doing is a follow-up type video which is about depression, but it's looking at whether you're not sure whether you have depression or not. So this is just giving you 5 signs or symptoms that may indicate you have depression. Now what I just want to make clear is that I'm not a doctor or a medical practitioner. I'm taking this information as a counsellor and through the research and the training I've done. So if for any reason some of these symptoms you think, yeah, I can relate to this and this might be true, then you do need to go and see your GP because they can make a formal diagnosis. Okay, so the first category would be your thoughts. So what I mean by that is most of the time people have these periods where they might feel a bit down, where they may have thoughts of negative thoughts, and that's that's natural and that's also okay. You know, we're not going to be 100% happy all of the time. But if you have thoughts of suicide, so recurrent suicidal thoughts, if you also have lots of thoughts of feeling guilty, feeling worthless, feeling that you just don't want to get out of bed, that you just don't want to be around anymore, you may also have thoughts about that everyone's looking at you, everyone hates you, so that would come under paranoia. All of these thoughts may indicate that you could be struggling with a mental health issue and you could possibly be depressed. Particularly if you're someone that previously has never had these types of thoughts, but in particular suicidal thoughts, if they're regular thoughts, then I would suggest that you would be best to go and see your GP because it could indicate that you have a form of depression. So we've looked at thoughts, now we're going to look at feelings. That's the second category. So if you're having the types of thoughts that I've just mentioned and then you start to feel very lethargic, so you could usually have been someone who had a lot of energy, but maybe now you just can't be bothered, you can't sometimes get out of bed, and when you do you still feel tired, lacking in energy. Now if that happens once in a while, then that's not like a major deal because that happens to everyone. But imagine if you still get loads and loads of sleep, but you're still feeling fatigued. So fatigue and lack of energy are different from just having a day where you're tired. So if you're fatigued, it means that the simple task of doing things that you would normally have been able to do become a big chore, a big task. So putting your clothes on, getting into the shower, just all the things that you would normally do, the basic tasks and routines of your day, become very much take you a longer time to do and you just feel tired. And lacking in energy, it could be related to food and also your routine, but it may also indicate that you could have a form of depression. So these are 2 signs, and I think when you're looking at these signs, it's best to look at all of them as well. Even if you have 3 or 4 out of the 5 that I'm going to mention, it would still be a good idea to possibly go and see your GP just in case. So the third category that we're looking at is behaviour. So first of all, we looked at your thoughts that may indicate you have depression, then some of your feelings, and now your behaviour. So if you're a depressed person, there are quite a lot of known symptoms or signs that you could have depression, and these are known to doctors and also through therapists and other people who work in the field. Now one key indicator is when you lose all interest in pleasurable activities or activities you used to really love doing. So if you were someone that used to be really sporty, you would love getting out and exercising, you would love socialising with family and friends, you had loads of activities you did all the time, but all of a sudden it's not that you just don't want to do them, you've lost all interest. So if someone suggests that activity to you, you now feel full of dread, worry, you just don't want to do it. So part of your behaviour would be to stop doing those activities, avoid them altogether. And another sign would also be avoiding family and friends and isolating yourself. So withdrawing from family and friends is a key sign that you could be depressed, and as the same as staying in bed all day, that's another key sign. So these types of behaviours, if you're exhibiting most of them, and when I say staying in bed all day, it doesn't mean, you know, you've decided to have a lazy day and just sleep in. It's about not being physically able to get out of bed or just feeling that you don't want to get out of bed and see the world. So you spend the day in your pyjamas, you may not even eat. Some of these behaviours could indicate that maybe you do have depression. Okay, so some of the physical symptoms, we've looked at thoughts, feelings, behaviour. Now we're going to look at physical and emotional symptoms. So the physical signs could be, there's loads, so I'm just going to tell you some of the main ones. So you're not sleeping or you're having disturbed sleep. You're also not eating or you're overeating. So either way could indicate depression. If you're eating too much, so your appetite is increased, or if you're not eating enough, and especially if you've got weight loss. So if you've lost a lot of weight, and that could be either through stress or not eating, it could be linked to just losing your appetite, not wanting to eat food, so it's still linked with possible depression. Some of the other physical signs could be that you just can't be bothered to care about your appearance. So you may have been someone who usually would spend ages getting ready. You jump in the shower, you do your hair, you do your makeup, you would always be well presented. If you know someone like that who now all of a sudden is complete opposite, you know, they always look unkempt, or they just, you know, there's issues there, it could indicate that they are depressed. I'm not saying that that's the only reason, I know it could happen, but it's one sign within amongst a lot of them. So that's lack of sleeping or oversleeping, lack of eating or overeating, losing interest in your appearance. So they're all like some of the physical signs. And then emotionally, I just need to check my notes for this one because that's the one I'm not quite clear on. And also with physical, yeah, there's headaches is another one, and also stomach aches. And because when you have to constantly be thinking negative things, everyone hates me, why has no one come to visit me, I don't want to see them anyway. When your mind is going at that sort of pace, it's going to affect you physically anyway without you even having control of. So it can affect you through headaches, through stomach aches, your digestive system. It's just because your brain is working too hard and it's all negative thoughts that it's experiencing. So that could be another sign, those sorts of things. So emotionally, it would be things like being forgetful, so distracted. So if you're emotionally disconnected and disengaged, and that's because you just can't, so it might be things like, whereas you used to pay all your bills on time, or you used to be reliable, it's not that you're purposely not turning up when you've promised someone that you would, or you're just forgetting your bills. It's that you can't physically cope with all of these things. You've got other things on your mind. So if you're depressed, you're not rational in your thinking at that time. So it doesn't mean you're not a rational person, it just means your thinking is irrational at that time. You don't care if, like, you know, you've got to be somewhere on time, or you can sometimes, as a depressed person, you can do the really urgent things. So you may still be able to get dressed and go to collect your children up from school, but you may be so depressed that you can't even do that. You may have to call someone else to do it. So it's looking at, do you have any of these symptoms, or are these signs familiar to you as a person? If they are, then the key thing to do is to go and see your GP, because your GP will be able to go through a checklist similar to this and other symptoms too. And it doesn't mean that because you get diagnosed with depression, the automatic thing will be you'll be prescribed medication, because a lot of people I've spoke to are worried about that. They don't want to go and see their GP and say they're depressed, because they feel they're going to be put on drugs, and they feel they're going to be, you know, ostracised, or they're going to be, and people are going to know. Well, it's better to find out what the GP has to say and then go from there, because if you're stuck with all of these feelings of suicide, not wanting to socialise with anyone, not wanting to get out of bed, forgetting things, being distracted, you're not really living the whole life that you want to live. You're not really living a productive life at that time, and that, you know, could be changed, could be altered, not just through therapy but also through speaking to your GP and then going from there. So this was quite a short video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please tune in to more videos and check out my YouTube channel, which is NU Journeys Counselling. Thank you for watching. Bye.